Hi guys, I want to talk about a movie today that I saw a couple months ago for the first time that it was like right into my heart. It was one of the most moving movies I've ever seen, and it left such an impression on me and really, really affected me in such a way that a lot of movies don't. And I watch a lot of classic movies, and not a lot of them move me to the extent that this one did. The movie's called Days of Wine and Roses. It's a 1962 film by Blake Edwards, starring Jack Lemmon and Lee Remick. And I first learned about this movie because I have a record, a Henry Mancini collection record, and the theme from Days of Wine and Roses was on the record. And I fell in love with it. I thought, oh my gosh, this song is so me. It's so made for me. And I listened to that song so much. And I remember looking up the synopsis of the movie, and it said an American couple in their battle with alcoholism. And I thought, oh, this doesn't really seem like my kind of movie. So I never watched it. And that was several years ago. That was a few years ago that I first learned about the song and had no desire to follow up on the movie. Until this year, I saw Days of Wine and Roses streaming on HBO Max. And I thought, I should watch this. It's here. I should definitely see what this movie is about. And then I found out that it starred Jack Lemmon, and I was sold. I said, okay, now I really want to watch this because I love Jack Lemmon. And Jack Lemmon is such a screwball, and he's so funny, so I'm sure the movie is going to be funny. No. Oh my gosh. Biggest no ever. It is not a comedy. It is very much a drama. It is very much a heartbreaking love story. It is not a comedy. And Jack Lemmon knocks it out of the park. So does Lee Remick, because this is the first movie I've seen with Lee Remick, and she was so amazing. Both their performances in this movie are just out of this world fantastic. But the content of the movie, the message of the film, very, very heartbreaking and very relevant and timeless. So the movie is set in 1960s San Francisco, and it stars Jack Lemmon as Joe Clay, a public relations guy, and Lee Remick as Kirsten. And Joe and Kirsten meet after a mutual business outing where he's working for her boss, and they sort of clash in the beginning just because of their personality types being different, but they eventually end up on a date together. And Joe wants to order Kirsten a drink during their dinner, and she declines. She says that she doesn't drink alcohol. She's never found the need for it. She's fine without it. But after he finds out that she likes chocolate, he orders her a chocolate martini, to which she loves. And she loves the way that it makes her feel and just the taste of it. And that is when everything starts for the worst. Joe and Kirsten end up moving really quickly in their relationship, and they drink together socially at dinner, and then it comes back to the house. And eventually, when Joe is moving up the ranks and they have a great apartment, they have a beautiful little girl together, his drinking unfortunately also ramps up, and he comes home totally wasted one night, and he's just this terribly mean alcoholic in a complete rage, upset at Kirsten, upset at her for abstaining from alcohol for the sake of their daughter because he misses his drinking partner, and he berates her for this, and he pressures her into drinking with him. And unfortunately, Kirsten begins drinking on her own, alone, binge drinking during the day while Joe is at work, and it gets so out of hand that she accidentally sets fire to the apartment one day. They lose the apartment. Joe, because of his overdrinking, loses his job, and they're forced to downsize. Joe has a moment of reflection, a literal moment of reflection, where he sees his reflection in the glass of a window, and he sees this man that he doesn't recognize, this just drunken bum, and he goes home to Kirsten in a rage, and he tells her that they have to stop.
You know why I've been fired from 5 jobs in 4 years, and it's not politics. Like we always say, it's not office politics or jealousy or any of that stuff. It's booze. It's booze.
So he takes his family to his father-in-law's house, where his father-in-law has a greenhouse business, and they stay there for a couple months, and Joe and Kirsten are sober and clean and happy together, and you can see they are playful and flirty together, and it's like they're healed. And unfortunately, in a moment of weakness, Joe takes alcohol to the bedroom one night and pressures Kirsten into drinking, even though at first she says she doesn't want to. And they end up going on an all-night binger. And Joe demolishes, completely destroys his father's greenhouse looking for another bottle of alcohol. And after that point, he's taken to a sanatorium for intensive treatment. And while at the sanatorium for treatment, he meets a sponsor from Alcoholics Anonymous who comes to him and asks him if he wants help, he can get him help. He takes him to the meetings, he listens to what they have to say, he agrees, he accepts that he's an alcoholic and he has to change, and that is Joe's road to recovery. Unfortunately, though, when Joe tries to tell Kirsten about this incredible program, it can help, it's helped him, Kirsten denies being an alcoholic. She says it has no power over her and she can quit anytime she wants to. The sort of rhetoric that an addict would say, an addict that is in denial about their problem, not wanting to be labeled by whatever affliction they're going through. She says she doesn't need help. Kirsten's drinking gets worse, and one night Joe can't find her. She's disappeared. His sponsor advises him not to go look for her alone because of what might happen, but Joe says he'll be fine. And he finds her completely disheveled, alone in a dark, seedy motel room, liquor bottles surrounding her, an absolute mess. This beautiful, beautiful person that we see at the beginning of the film, so fresh-faced, is just speckled and bloated and looks horrible in the scene that we find her in. And she berates Joe for not being man enough to drink with her. She doesn't want to be around him. He's not fun. She really bullies and pressures him and puts him down for not drinking with her anymore. And even though Joe seems very, very stern about not doing this, he turns around, he sees Kirsten's face, in that moment of weakness decides he will drink with her, and it turns into an another all-night binger in which he ends up taken again into the sanatorium for treatment after he causes problems trying to rob a liquor store. During his second stay at the sanatorium, his sponsor is very adamant that he cannot be around Kirsten if she is going to pressure him into drinking. That alcoholic people do not want to drink around sober people, and that they want company. And Joe cannot be the company. If he loves her, he'll stay sober, and he'll prove to her that she can stay sober too by his example. Joe manages to stay sober and stay clean and get possession of his daughter again, who had been staying with his father-in-law due to Kirsten's drinking. And they have this terribly heartbreaking scene in which her father confronts Joe about what he did to his daughter and how she was never like this. And it is just so incredibly hard to watch this. You can see I'm just tearing up even thinking about it right now. It's really, really sad scene. At the end of the movie, we see Joe with his daughter in their apartment alone, and Kirsten comes to the door after a couple days sober, saying that she owes it to him to try and be sober for this reunion. And it is the saddest interaction and scene and dialogue I think I can remember seeing in a very, very long time.
I love you. I'm afraid of you. I'm an alcoholic. I can't take a drink, and I'm afraid of what we do to each other. If you just say that you try.
This movie was so impactful on me. It left such an impression on me, and I just felt it was so moving and heartbreaking and relevant. And it is one of the most, I'd say, realistic depictions of how horrible, how destructive alcoholism is. And I think a lot of media today really glamorizes it and makes it seem fashionable and fun, and there's something exciting and glitzy about it. And this movie is what it actually is, and shows how destructive it actually is. And especially for the time it was made, you can imagine. So Hollywood, it's classic Hollywood, plagued by alcoholism. So many actors and actresses battled with it. Even during the filming of this movie, the director, Blake Edwards, and Jack Lemmon were both heavy, heavy drinkers. And actually, a year after the movie ended, Blake Edwards got help with AA and to quit his drinking. Jack Lemmon didn't quit his drinking until years later. But there's so many actors and actresses who have been their lives completely destroyed by alcoholism. So I can imagine at the time this movie would have been just an eye opener. But I feel like it's so relevant even today, the message, even if you replace alcoholism with anything. It's a really, really tragic story. It's a cautionary tale too, but also it's it's beautiful to see it, just because of the performances and whatnot, and the music. The music. But I loved this movie, and it made me cry so much. I bawled my eyes out when I saw that scene um, between Joe and Kirsten at the end there. It's so tragic. The only other time I can remember crying this hard when I watched a classic movie was Of Mice and Men, when they're talking about putting down Candy's dog. I I was sobbing. That was a heartbreaking scene. But this is number two. This is the second time I just waterworks during the ending there. But I really love this movie, and I wanted to talk about it because I felt it was such a great film, and more people should definitely watch it. So it's streaming on HBO Max if you have HBO Max. Otherwise, it's worth a rent. It's a great movie, great performances by Lee Remick and Jack Lemmon, and I highly recommend it. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.